Hello, everybody. Scott Golden here with the Superstars of Wrestling review series for the 4th of October, 1986. Very soon after the beginning of the program. Uh, that's a pretty big deal, and we kind of go back in time here. So much different at that time, so we'll try to cover what we can. Uh, your Intercontinental Champion still Macho Man Randy Savage, of course. The Macho Man, the second longest reigning Intercontinental Champion of all time, behind the Honky Tonk Man by about a month and a half. Honky Tonk Man beat him, but obviously that's a pretty big deal, as is the wonder of everything that goes on with this time in the WWF. We are a couple of months after the WrestleMania 2 experiment, which doesn't go very well because it's multi arena, multi city, and it doesn't really pan out very well. We are not in the world of two pay per views a year yet. That doesn't come until 1987 with the Survivor Series. So, much different time, and new talent almost every week. Koko Ware, who hasn't been here too terribly long. Koko B. Ware, of course, who is the Birdman, comes in 86 and doesn't leave till 94. So he's got a pretty long run there. He takes some time off. Koko, of course, coming from Memphis. I'm hoping I can find in my foray through all of these wonderful wrestling shows. I'm hoping I can find the wonder that I saw one time of a Koko Ware and Ric Flair match from Memphis from like 1982, 83. That was really good. They went about 25 minutes, and it was really good. Surprisingly much better than anyone would expect. But enhancement talent here. Koko, of course, has his parrot Frankie and some hip tosses and some basic stuff. Flying head scissors, a move we don't barely see anymore. Koko snaps him over, and away we go. And ultimately, Irish whip and big back body drop by Koko, obviously. And there we go that way. Big body slam by Koko again. And Koko really is a super guy at the time. You know, high flying with the drop kicks and all of that. But also, he can sell like nobody's business. Really into the gimmick, just glad to be there. And he ends up getting, of course, one of the title tracks on the Pile Driver Wrestling album with Pile Driver. Spinning neck breaker leads to the beginning of the end, and he hits that gourd buster, which at the time looked brutal and probably was. Drops a guy right down on his neck and head, and Koko victorious here. We kind of see an update where Hillbilly Jim does some singing and dancing on the TNT set, mostly singing country music. Oddly enough, Hillbilly Jim got a radio show years after his wrestling career was over through a country station out in Kentucky, I believe, where he's from. I think it's syndicated for a little while. Anyway, that's just a really fun fact that Hillbilly Jim did live up to that country name. Anyway, Sika is out with the Grand Wizard, otherwise known as Curtis Iakea. Actually, nope, the Wizard. Curtis Iakea, the Grand Wizard, of course, Ernie Roth, who had passed away a few years before this. I don't know why they called Iakea the Wizard, but Sika, of course, the father of current star Roman Reigns. If you've never seen Sika before, you're not missing much in terms of, in-ring acumen, but you are missing a bull of a guy. At the time, they also had ring girls, kind of like UFC does. They called them the Federettes. I don't know how long that lasted. I think it lasted until 87 or so, but that seems to be a thing. Punch, kick, and brawling from Sika. Sika really doesn't quite find his stride here. but I don't think anybody really cares about that. Ken Resnick out with Tito Santana. Tito gonna face Harley Race, I believe, on this particular loop of house shows. Tito really talks about being a guy who loves the Boston area, which is one of their major markets. Honky Tonk Man, I believe, is still a baby face in October '86. Might have just turned heel, but I mean, he's not. He's still doing suspenders and all of that, but there's an inset with Mr. Fuji, which leads me to believe that his heel turn has not begun. Obviously, he has completed it fully by 1987, WrestleMania 3 time in March. But here, I think he's still kind of new. He comes in the summer, early fall of '86, and the original plan, at least for a little bit, was for the Honky Tonk Man, yes, believe it or not, to be a babyface as an Elvis impersonator. Punch kick, again, the jabs to the side of the head make me think just the way he's carrying himself that he is going to be a heel here, but he does do babyface for the first couple of months, and I'm not sure where that is in the chronology. Obviously, the Honky Tonk Man, the greatest to many Intercontinental Champion of all time. Just ask him, he'll tell you. He has told me many times. Of course, tongue in cheek, Honky, a great guy, and got the chance to meet him a few times over the years. And he hits the neck breaker, gets a quick pin, and, ultimately, Honky Tonk Man, a pretty big deal for the next several years in the World Wrestling Federation. And odd that he never really came back too terribly much, later in his career, which, I mean, he had 20 plus years on the independents. Savage talks about wanting Steamboat and also kind of going off on, still being the Intercontinental Champion, wanting to be one of the best. They are teasing at this point, I believe, in an elimination match, Piper, Harley Race, and Junkyard Dog and Steamboat. But basically, the Steamboat thing and also Savage challenging Hogan around October of this year is there. Actually, there were some people that thought he might have been. They're unsubstantiated, but there were rumors years later that Savage might have been in line for Mania 3 behind Orndorff, who, by the way, is up next, and other individuals, if Andre hadn't come through, that Savage was third in line if needed. At this point, though, Orndorff had just turned on Hogan a few months before. I believe he turns in July or August of '86. So he's still in the middle of his hot run here. As a heel, of course, managed by Bobby the Brain Heenan. What I find really interesting is that Orndorff was using Hogan's iconic theme just to get under Hogan's skin. This is the first in many of the forays into the Hogan is betrayed by his friends motif that we later kind of see with the Warrior and Almost Tugboat and certainly Randy Savage. Anyway, short clothesline by Orndorff. Orndorff is brilliant as a heel, getting under his skin. I was never a huge fan of Orndorff in the ring, but his heel tactics are amazing, as is his pile driver at the time. He leaps all around with it and takes this enhancement talent out with it, which leads to a victory. Of course, there were people that were around at the time who really did believe that there was a possibility that Orndorff would be gone on to become a world champion. Roddy Piper had been laid out several months or weeks before by Adrian Adonis. Piper, in his absence, while filming I Believe They Live in '86, The flower shop had replaced Piper's Pit. Piper was not good with this. And in this particular episode, if you've never seen Piper go nuts and destroy the flower shop, this particular uh, October 4th edition in 1986, worth it for you. There's even a spot, Piper comes out there with a bat. He's limping around, and he takes a shot at something. I believe it was a potted plant or maybe the wall. But he takes a shot and he slips. He takes his own bump, gets back up, and continues to fight, completely destroying the flower shop and basically saying that he is back. The idea that they are building WrestleMania 3 all the way here in October. So October, November, December, January, February, March. 6 months of build for what ends up being Piper's final match for a couple of years. Is just huge. It's wonderfully done. Obviously, Randy Savage is here as the Intercontinental Champion at the time. And you know, he's looking like $1 million. One thing I like about Savage is he's always got a different robe. He's always got something different, and he is going nuts on the enhancement talent in this match. Superstar Billy Graham kind of putting challenges out to Savage. The idea that Billy Graham was coming back as a babyface was hot at the time, 86, early 87. Anyway, Savage with the top rope elbow after some body slams and a couple other shots, and Savage looks like $1 million. He is anything but worried about his challenges there. Hogan cuts a promo on facing Harley Race, and Jesse Ventura does the interviewing there. Ventura and Hogan legitimately don't get along, and that's pretty clear. The Moondogs and the Killer Bees up next. Killer Bees, of course, B. Brian Blair and Jim Brunzell. They are teaming together here. I think they come in late 85, and they team together through about 88 or so. So they have a good run. The Moondogs, of course, I think Rex and Spot are here, and they are former tag team champions. Of course, Spot having the interesting less than 20 second match with good old Terry Funk at the Wrestling Classic. I eventually will have all the pay-per-views covered in audio format as well, but obviously this is a huge project, and I'm the only one doing the project right now. Would love to have members of the team, but eventually that takes actually making money off the channel and being able to pay people, because I'm not going to ask people to do what I am doing, and that's doing it for free at the moment. But anyway, slide behind in a big body slam by one of the Killer Bees. Of course, Brunzell coming in from the general area of the AWA, and then Blair, mainly from Florida. So flip, flop, and fly. Bit of, arm drags and some good double teams there. We are moving towards a nice victory and double team for the Killer Bees. Bees are pretty major. We move into a interview where the Machines are talking about having a match 6-man tag, including the Piper Machine. One of the Machines, obviously, generally was considered to be Andre. Don't know if it was. I know Blackjack Mulligan played a Machine. But what's interesting is the Machines were big men who pretended to be from Japan, one of whom was Billy Eadie, who later became Demolition Axe, which a lot of people may not know if you weren't around at the time. And then we close on that note. We will be back with more right after this.